What's up? Andrew Pollock here, co-founder and CEO at leadPops.com, doing another Dartboard marketing video, funnels edition, talking to you about domain names, buying domain names in particular. There are some rules here that I recommend anytime you're looking at making a domain name purchase to think about and follow. I mean, you don't want a .net, right? You want a .com. These are things that people will think are an option for them without really thinking about what could be the repercussions or what are some of the problems that exist with getting a secondhand domain name like a .net or something else. The biggest problem is somebody owns the .com, which is probably why you're not getting it. And who is that .com? I encourage you to take a look at it. So if, let's just say, GoDaddy tells you that is already taken, don't just jump into buying the .net version of it. I'd be very curious to see, well, who is that .com? What is that .com? Is it just a domain name that's sitting on a parked page no one's doing anything with? Might be an opportunity there to still buy that domain. Or is that a competitor who owns the .com version, and every single time a consumer mistakenly types in .com because they're so programmed into typing .com, they end up on your competitor's website or page. So domains are super, super important. It is the starting point of really a business idea. In some cases, you've got the idea and the name comes to mind. The name is probably not really a thing until you go and do your research and you see, is the domain name available? And if so, obviously locking up as many versions of it as you can, the different misspellings that could be typical, things like that are areas to think about. And then of course, if the name is already taken and the domain already exists, doesn't mean the idea is not something you can do, but you've got to be a little bit more creative with how you go about the name of the business and the domain associated with it. Those two things are typically very closely associated. The name of the company or product and the domain name. You definitely want to get the .com version of that domain name, especially if it's something like mortgage. The software space has become a little bit more creative with like .ios, .ais, things like that you can get away with. If you have, let's just say, a mortgage product that is doing a whole bunch of behind the scenes things that are fully automated, or that's kind of how you're selling the messaging, you could get away with something like mortgagebot.ai. But if you're just standard mortgage broker, standard loan officer shop, not doing anything crazy technological, go with the .com. The IO, AI, that stuff is usually like software and tech and things like that. Again, you can get away with it. Your standard mortgage operation, I do recommend you get the .com. That's for your website, and it's a great idea for your lead funnels. The best way to drive people to a lead funnel from a traditional marketing piece like direct mail, like radio ads, is having a .com domain name attached to it. So when we launch your lead funnels at leadPops, you've got a subdomain and a setup that exists that's really easy to link to, but it's not the easiest to communicate verbally. It's not meant to. Anytime you go into, oh, we're going to be using that lead funnel in some traditional marketing, a business card, again, direct mail, radio ads, door hangers, anything where people have to remember that domain name, you want something short and sweet. You don't want dashes or hyphens. You want .com, I'm going to say that again. You don't want any weird cutesy spellings where like you have to go back and explain again that it's the number 4, right? Or the letter U or something like that, instead of like mortgagesforyou.com, and then you got the 4 and the U, and that's just going to mess everything up. And then who owns the correct spelling of those things becomes a challenge, and don't set yourself up for all that. It's unnecessary friction, obstacles. Losing a loan because of a domain name mistake is a really, really expensive mistake, and it's something you're going to pay for time and time again. The worst part about it is it's really hard to track. People don't call to report to you that, hey, I tried to go to your website and I couldn't figure it out, so I just went somewhere else and someone else did my loan for me. You don't get that feedback. It never hits your doorstep. You just do less business than you would and should if you had a really good, solid domain setup. So look for .com. Try to keep it short and sweet. Try not to get too cutesy with the spellings and things like that. Don't do dashes. Don't do numbers. Don't do for you, that kind of thing. If it's your, like, let's just say it's your area code, like San Diego 619. I got 619 mortgage. That's a pretty good domain. 619mortgage.com gives me a lot of coverage all over San Diego. That makes sense. But when you get into like the number 4 instead of FOR and things like that, that's where you get into weird territory unless you own every single variation of that domain name possible and you've covered all your bases. All, again, unnecessary. Put a little bit of time and research into it. And also don't forget about existing domain names that are already out there, that are seasoned domain names that have been out for a long time. You don't just have to go buy something brand new on GoDaddy that isn't available. There's tons of domain sellers and resellers out there who just sit on domains, and maybe they'll sell it to you for $500 or $1,000. I mean, I've spent thousands of dollars on one domain before. It sounds kind of crazy, but I've spent over $3,000 on a domain that I thought was really good and it made sense for my business. It might make sense for you. If you could get a really good local domain name, let's just say, as an example, SanDiegoMortgage.com, that was for sale for like $2,000. I'm a mortgage guy in San Diego. I would spend $2,000 on that, no problem. What is that, like half a loan, a third of a loan? Great keyword-rich domain name, probably has a lot of history and it's been around for a long time. All good things for your SEO, no brainer. So look at those options too. There's tons of different resellers and domain marketplaces where you can look things up, and they'll suggest ideas to you that are similar if what you're looking for isn't available. And don't just think that you have to go find some brand new domain name that no one's ever thought of before, because the domain secondary market, the resellers, is huge, and you can snag up a really good, solid, seasoned domain that's keyword rich for not a whole lot of money when you break it down and you look at the investment, especially in the mortgage, real estate, and insurance space, where you make a lot of money when you close a deal. It pays for itself time and time again. So that's some of the best practices I recommend. If you need help with a domain name, to set one up for your lead funnels, for your website, talk to the leadPops team. There's a link in the description. You can book a demo with our team. You can talk to our marketing experts. We're happy to help. Hope this video has been helpful. If it has, please do like, share, comment, and I'll catch you soon with another video.